Senator, always good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
How do you think it will go? Do you know of any Republicans who would vote to convict? And do you know of any Democrats who would not?
I don't think there'll be any Republicans voting to convict, as there were no Republicans voting to impeach. If there's ever been a game where we knew the end result, a foregone conclusion, this is it. I mean, it's been that way since the very beginning, and the Democrats plowed on, and I think they plowed on because they wanted to try to damage him in the election. They actually explicitly said, many of them, that they feared they couldn't beat him unless they're able to use the government or abuse the government's, the apparatus of government, the apparatus of impeachment to damage him. And that's the ultimate irony here. They accused the president of using government to go after a political rival, and they did exactly the same to the tune of millions of dollars. They did it with Mueller. They've done it with this. They even went after the president before he was elected and began spying on him through the FISA courts, which they've now been rebuked for. So this is really, there really has never been a president where there's been this much partisan energy and malevolence.
You know, Senator, you got caught up in this as well. I had an opportunity the other day to talk to your dad, Ron Paul, and raise this issue of Chief Justice Roberts refusing to let you ask a question. This was your dad weighing in on that. Do you think then that the Chief Justice was acting on Democrats' behalf when he didn't let Ron Paul, speak? Or at least ask his question?
I think he was acting on his own behalf, but, I think that he still has sort of a bias that encouraged him to do this, because why should they? Eventually, they named the person. Everybody knows the name of the whistleblower, and the whistleblower is crucial.
Have you had any contact with the Chief Justice since all of that?
No, I've only had one time where I got to ask the Chief Justice a question, and there was a dinner here in town a couple years ago, and he talks about how the Chief Justice should be a judge and, like an umpire, and shouldn't put their hand on the scale. And I said, well, if you believe that the government is right in a tie, if you presume constitutionality like you did in the Obamacare case, isn't that like putting a thumb on the scale? Because, Obamacare ended up being ruled unconstitutional according to being a regulation, and then Justice Roberts, out of whole cloth, says, oh, well, maybe it's a tax, and if I can imagine any way in which it's constitutional. So I'm really on a different wavelength from him in sort of believing that we should let the government do whatever they want. I guess that is, except for ask questions. The question I asked didn't name anybody to be the whistleblower, didn't accuse anybody. It talked about Adam Schiff's team, and it talked about friends of theirs at the National Security Council, and I count 6 of them who knew each other, and now there are accusations that they'd been talking about the impeachment for well over a year, that they came to Adam Schiff and planned this in advance, and I think that's a real problem, and they should be made to answer for that.
Sounds like you weren't a big fan of his or how he handled this whole matter. Am I leaping there or what?
Yeah, I think the question should have been asked, but I went ahead and took it to the public. The public knows the question I asked, and I think it is important that it be asked. I think it's also important for people who are for whistleblowers to examine their own beliefs. Look, Chuck Schumer has talked about, putting Edward Snowden in jail for life. Edward Snowden's probably the greatest whistleblower of all time. He revealed something that no one else revealed and that was unconstitutional. The whistleblower in this case revealed something that 400 people already knew. The whistleblower's boss knew it. If it were true whistleblowing, his boss would be in trouble for not revealing it. No, it was a matter of opinion. Vindman's boss said the phone call was fine. So did about 300 of the 400 people, or maybe 380 of the 400 people thought it was fine, and 20 or 30 people maybe objected to it on policy grounds. That's not a whistleblower. So that's different than Edward Snowden, who brought forward documents to say, look, they're spying on all the Americans. And so this is still caught up in something I'm very interested in, and I'm going to be talking to the president more and more over the next few weeks about we've got to do something to prevent FISA from ever getting involved in American political campaigns again. No secret court should ever be involved in politics on either way, either side of the aisle.
As you know, Senator, your colleague Mitt Romney has been disinvited in the next CPAC gathering because of his push for witnesses. Susan Collins, as far as I know, was not treated the same way. What do you think of that?
You know, that's up to them, but I wouldn't criticize people who choose to take a stand. It's not easy to take an unpopular stand, and I told Senator Romney I've been there before. I've been one of the few standing up and saying I don't want another war with Iran, or I don't think we got to keep sanctioning Russia till the end of time. So I've been an outlier before, and I know what it takes. And you don't do it because it's actually not easy to be that unpopular sometimes within your own caucus. So I disagree with him on this. I think the president shouldn't be impeached. I think we were done. And actually, I think he may well vote against impeachment in the end. I'm not speaking for him, but I don't fault him for having a strongly held position, particularly when it's one that's very, very hard to have and very unpopular. That's a difficult thing to do in Washington, and you know, I think that's definitely his right.
Senator Rand Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you.